Hello, everyone. Welcome to the beautiful and historic Salimpur House for the session on Maniklal Gajjar by blockmaker Mala Sena and Dr. Suchitra Balasubramanian. We are at the Nasim Iqtidar Ali Literary Guftagu at the 15th Mahindra Sanatkara Lucknow Festival. We are very grateful to Syed Rashdi Hassan and Syed Farhan Hassan and their family for opening up their home so graciously to us. Salimpur House is part of the larger Kesarbagh Palace complex built by the last Nawab of Awadh, Wajid Ali Shah. This year, we dedicate our literary sessions to the memory of late Dr. Nasim Iqtidar Ali, who left us a few years ago. She mentored this festival from its very inception and always pushed us to excel. To introduce our speakers, we have with us today Paola Manfredi. Paola Manfredi is an ethnologist, most notable for her work on chicken curry. She is the author of the book Chicken Curry, A Lucknow Tradition, which documents the history of the craft, its contemporary practices and techniques, as well as its social context. Alongside her research, Manfredi continues to work with Indian craftspeople to create chicken curry textiles for special projects such as exhibitions or events. She also studied Kantha embroidery while living in Bangladesh for a few years. She's a member of the World's Crafts Council and has worked as a consultant for development organizations in the Indian subcontinent and in Africa. Can we please have Paola Manfredi on stage? Thank you.
Good morning. I'm very pleased and honored to introduce Mala Sena and Suchitra Balasubramanian, who are going to give us a fantastic presentation. Mala Sena graduated from NID, the National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, and specialized in textile design. In 1984, she created the label Body, which sells in India and abroad. Over the years, Mala, in her design studio workshop, has tirelessly experimented with various printing, dyeing, and other means of embellishing textile surfaces, giving these craft techniques a new and a refreshing direction, be it hand block printing, screen printing, dyeing or hand embroidery, applique, and patchwork. As a design studio and workshop, Body represents the best practices in both design and craft, weaving together scientific understanding of the technologies used, craftsmanship, and ethical production practices. UNESCO has recognized Body by awarding its Seal of Excellence for Design, Innovation, and Craftsmanship for the year 2012, 2014, 2016, and 2018. Besides nurturing her design studio workshop, Mala has worked as a research assistant with Dr. Latika Varadarajan for her book, South Indian Tradition of Kalamkari. She has also worked as a research assistant to Yoshiko Iwamoto Wada, president of World Shibori Symposium, while she was in India as a Fulbright scholar, to research on the Indian tradition of tie-and-dye and bandhani. Recently, she has contributed an article on the traditional craft of Kasuti, an embroidery tradition practiced by the women of North Karnataka, for a yet-to-be-released book. Since two very important archives have come into Body's possession, Mala finds herself extremely busy and engaged with them. She, along with her friend and colleague, also a graduate from NID, Suchitra Balasubramanian, are together researching on these archives material. And Suchitra Balasubramanian was also studied visual communication at the National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad, and is currently a visiting professor at Nirma University in Ahmedabad. Suchitra's design practice is centered on social issues and has worked with the NGO, grassroots organization, and social movement in Western India. Her research interests center on 19th and 20th century craft and design in India against the backdrop of decolonization and nationalism. Suchitra has co-curated an exhibition on the brocades of Banaras at the National Museum in New Delhi in 2016, contributed as a researcher for the Bauhaus Imaginista exhibition at Berlin that marked the centenary of the Bauhaus in 2019, and curated an exhibition on the relationship between the National Institute of Design and the city of Ahmedabad, using materials from the Institute archives in 2022. A recent publication include Concrete, the Materiality and Political Economy of Modernism in India in the Early Years After Independence, published in 2022. The India-Pakistan border as site for the production of national identity in 2021, and Moving Away from Bauhaus and Ulm in 2019. Suchitra has co-authored The Shaping of Modern Gujarat, Plurality in Hindutva and Beyond, published by Penguin in 2005, and Ahmedabad from Royal City to Mega City, also published by Penguin in 2011, and co-edited Ahmedabad 600, Portraits of City, Marg 2011. So I'm very happy to leave the podium to Mala and Suchitra, who will share insight and findings on the extraordinary and celebrated block maker, Mr. Maniklal Gajjar, based on his rich archives material that they are currently researching, in the hope to bring deeper understanding of lesser-known aspects of our heritage and traditional knowledge, which, unfortunately, we are fast losing, and a better and more holistic understanding of the life of a craftsman. Please, Mala and Suchitra.
Namaste, and thank you all for being here, and I mean it. Yesterday has been quite a chaotic day for all of us, and for all of you to come on Monday morning. It means a lot to both Suchitra and me. Thank you so much. Though we are extremely pressed for time, a few moments to express our gratitude. Thank you, dear Paula, for this wonderful introduction. And of course, thank you to Madhvi and to Sanatkada Festival for this opportunity. And last but not the least, gratitude to Saman and Amit for making Suchitra and me feel at home in their home. And their home has been a home away from home. And I also here cannot resist sharing this happy coincidence that with all of you, that Saman has been our very first guinea pig as an audience for whom I did a special walkthrough in Baroda when we set it up last year. And she was also the first one to pen her comments in the visitor's book. Today I'm happy that she and Amit both are here in the audience. Thank you both, Saman and Amit. As I mentioned, the time is short and we have a lot to share. I will straight dive into without wasting much time. Paula has already spoken to you about the fact that we are going to be talking about Maniklal Gajjar, the block maker who lived in Gujarat, in Ahmedabad, near Ahmedabad. And as the theme of the festival this year is Ishq, both Suchitra and I decided to view Maniklal's life through the prism of love and relationships he built during his life, with the warmth and affection he shared with those who touched his life. Indeed, he was very well known and a celebrated artisan in his lifetime, but most of you in the audience may not have heard of him. So let me draw a very quick sketch of him to help you place him. He was a wood block maker. He carved wooden blocks for printing on textiles. He was exceptionally talented craftsman, highly skilled and creatively inclined too, with an inherent sense of design and a refined sense of aesthetics. Personally, I had known Manik Lal while I was a student of textile design at NID, and later after moving to Baroda in the early 80s when I set up my printing workshop. He carved many blocks over the years for me, and we shared a very warm and a happy relationship. Yeah. Government recognized his talent, and he won the national award for his woodblock carving. The design that he submitted for the block is a part of the exhibit. The award as well, a part of the exhibit. This is the award. It's a bronze cast block. Sorry. Sorry. Yeah. So this is also a part of the exhibit, and you can have a look at quite a beautiful block given to him along with a check of rupees 2,500 that was given to him in 1980 when he received the award from then President Neelam Sanjeeva Reddy. You can see him receiving the award. This was in Vigyan Bhavan, as you can read, and you can also see Pupulben Jaikar at the far end. So this is the Google Earth image of river Sabarmati that is flowing through Ahmedabad, Gandhinagar and Pethapur to give you the sense of the location. This large area, white area is Ahmedabad. The small area, the white fungus-like thing is Gandhinagar. And the tiny speck next to Gandhinagar is Pethapur. Below is the aerial view of Pethapur village, and this is an extraordinarily beautiful image shot by Subrata Bhaumik, a very well-known graphic designer, for Dr. Jyotindra Jain's article in the India magazine in 1986 when he wrote about the Saudagiri trade craft. Suchitra will talk about it a little later, and how Pethapur was involved and how it prospered during this time. The arrow is showing Manik Lal's home. It's a 3-storied building. The first floor was just the store and the wash area. The second floor where he lived with his wife and 3 daughters. And the top floor where he conducted his business was his workshop, and he worked there with his group of men who worked under him, under his supervision and guidance. So this is Manik Lal Gajjar with his wife Kantaba and the 3 daughters, Veena, Jagruti and Neela. And contrary to what you might believe that traditional artisans don't treat women the girls or the daughters in a very positive way, here Manik Lal gave everything to his daughters that he would have given to his sons. He educated them, he gave them the best that he could afford. He also, the girls were very bright. In fact, the eldest, Veena, was the first one to travel from Pethapur to Ahmedabad to join college. And she became a graduate. All 3 of them were graduate. And she just recently retired from bank in a very senior position. But in spite of that, he taught them how to carve blocks. All 3 girls never took block making professionally, but they are all proficient at carving blocks. Contrary to our belief that, the craftsmen teach only it goes from father to son, it was not the case. Even the girls learned how to carve blocks.
Sorry, can you move the laptop a little bit on this side?
Okay.
Because your face is not coming through the
Okay,
cameras.
okay.
Is this okay?
Yeah,
Is this okay? Yeah. Can you read it?
yeah.
Okay.
I don't have to read, I'll just say, yeah. So now the fact that I just mentioned a little while ago that we are going to be talking about Manik Lal and the relationships that he built. And this is a very good example. This photograph is a very good example. You can see the towering 6'2" Manik Lal Gajjar, very good looking, handsome, with Hakubhai Shah, who was his mentor and a lifelong friend. With this foreign gentleman there is Alfred Bueller, Dr. Alfred Bueller, the bald man next to Hakubhai, well-known scholar, textile scholar, writer, author. He came to India and to Ahmedabad very often. Cornelia, again another ethnographist. And Maniklal thought it was important for him to meet these people and learn from them, leaving his work aside from Pethapur, come all the way to Ahmedabad and just spend a couple of hours in these people's company. And he truly benefited a great deal from them. The picture adjoining is Dr. Eberhard Fischer, again another ethnographist from Switzerland, Basel. And here Maniklal is seen with all the other block makers of Pethapur. And you know, when in the early 60s, when the block business was just kind of taking another turn after Saudagiri block, the trade having collapsed. Ahmedabad played a very important role in Maniklal's life. Two major institutions were coming up in Ahmedabad, some kind of a renaissance happening. You can see the NID, the campus, National Institute of Design in Ahmedabad. Next to it is Charles Eames, the one who suggested to Jawaharlal Nehru in the early 60s that Design School Institute be set up. Helena Perinthupa next to him, my Finnish teacher, textile designer, who came on invitation of Giraben to set up the curriculum at NID. And she stayed here for almost 4 decades, and a wonderful teacher, and all of us have benefited greatly from her. Below is Giraben Sarabhai. She needs no introduction. I'm sure all of you have heard of the Calico Museum. So she was the soul and spirit and the visionary behind the Calico Museum, image of Calico Museum, the interior of it. And of course, Populben Jaikar, who was the one who encouraged Maniklal a great deal at every stage in his life. Now, the archives came to me. It's another long story. If we have the time, we'll talk about it. But he passed away. Maniklal passed away in 2012. And the girls approached me in 2015 saying that, you know, if we want to just sell the house, the ancestral home, and what do we do with Papa's material? Would you please take care of it, etc. And so one day we just went with a truck to Pethapur from Baroda and brought everything to Bodhi, to our premises. Fortunately, then I had the money and I had the space to buy this. So it came to us, but I had no idea what I would do with it. All I knew was that this archive was important and that I needed to save it, preserve it. And by, of course, Suchitra joined in and we worked out a project and we started our research on it, and we've been working on it since past 3 years almost. We got a small funding from the India Foundation for the Arts. And, but I must tell you here at this point that we haven't really even done 50% of the work of the material that we have. It's an incredibly rich archive for an artisan to have accumulated in his life from 1966 till about 2011 when he passed away. The work is by way of his correspondence, photographs, visitors' books, the block impressions, paper impressions, invoice books, his receipts, all kinds of things, you know, his design development, tracings, etc. And one can really just go on for several years, and many different experts can look at his work from different angles. And that is what we are hoping to do, and we'll continue to work in this direction. And therefore, I am going to, considering we are talking about Ishqiana, and we are looking at how Maniklal built his relationships, I'm going to make a small attempt at looking at Maniklal's life through the letters and correspondence, which we found in these various files and boxes and paper bags, and also Soviet Desh and Soviet Nari, those magazines that we received from USSR in those days. Like Span came from America, Soviet Desh came from Russia, and we had many such magazines between which he he stored his papers and his designs, etc. So those are also a part of our display. You can have a look at that. I have selected a few letters to give you an idea of how Maniklal built relationships, because he was very much a people person. He loved networking, he loved making connections, and he stayed connected with them. It was not as if somebody just came and left. He continued to be in touch with them for years and years. And even people came to him, like Fisher, Bueller, all of these people. Every time they were in Ahmedabad, they would go and spend time with them. And I would imagine that it was not always to look at work or to understand something. All that had happened. But then they had developed a very deep friendship, with each other. And therefore, to kind of meet him just as a friend was also a pleasure. And the fact that also he was extremely warm and hospitable, and he never thought that anybody was intruding in his business time or his work. He was extremely welcoming. He set aside his work and he spent his time. And as you know, these days, or even then, to give your time as a gift to a friend is the most precious thing, and he always did that. And that is how he endeared him to, to his people whom he came in touch with. So I have found one letter, which is one file, by the way, of Amber prints in Delhi, New Delhi. They were a block printing workshop. The owner was Purushottam Bhatia. I assume he was a Punjabi, Haryanvi gentleman. And they had a long relationship from the early 70s till about 1983. And the file that I'm presently talking about, that you see, the letters here are only between 1980 and 1983, but the relationship was much longer. We have yet to look for the earlier correspondence. We haven't yet been able to find that. And this actually demonstrates that how your client can become your friend over time, where you talk about many other things besides just work and business. So this and also, by the way, I want to also point all of you to a fact that Maniklal Gajjar went to school only till class 5. He had to be pulled out because there was some family financial crisis. But look at his handwriting, and you'll see, really beautiful handwriting. And he took care to write really very long, detailed letters. Some of them are very fun, humorous. And also the fact that this letter is written in Hindi, that was not his mother tongue. He was rather fluent in Gujarati, which was his mother tongue. But Hindi was also not bad for someone like him. I'm going to read out a bit of it. So this is the letter when they're making a family holiday out of it when they are going to Delhi to receive the national award. And so it says that हम सब यहाँ से तारीख 14/11/80 के दिन 2 डाउन दिल्ली मेल से दिल्ली आने के लिए निकलेंगे और दिनांक 15/11/80 के दिन शनिवार के दिन पुरानी दिल्ली पे सुबह 7:30 बजे पहुँचेंगे। हमारे साथ घर से सभी आने वाले हैं और वापस आने के लिए गवर्नमेंट ने टिकटों का रिजर्वेशन हो गया है, वरना हम आपको लिखते थे। आप स्टेशन पर आ सको तो ज़रूर आने की कृपा करें, जिसे बच्चे लोग, गुजराती समाज अगर आपके वहाँ जहाँ ठीक समझे वहाँ जा सके। So in response to that, on the 10th of November, Purushottam Bhatia writes to Maniklal Gajjar, आपने लिखा है कि आप यहाँ पर 15/11/80 के दिन बच्चों सहित यहाँ पहुँच रहे हैं, सो पढ़कर बहुत खुशी हुई। हम आप लोगों को 15/11/80 के दिन सुबह स्टेशन पर लेने ज़रूर आएंगे। आप बच्चों की किसी प्रकार की फ़िक्र मत करें। यहाँ पहुँचने पर जैसे ही सुविधा हुई, इस प्रकार से हम इंतज़ाम कर दिया जाएगा। हम यहाँ आजकल ठंड शुरू हो गई है, आप कृपा करके आपके साथ रज़ाई बिस्तर वगैरह ज़रूर ले आने की कृपा करें। And this goes on, of course. Now I'm jumping to another letter This is Ambar Prince, Parshuttam's letter. And the girls talk about the most wonderful holiday. Even today when we speak about this holiday in 1980, how well Purushottam looked after them, Purushottam Bhatia looked after them, and what a great time they had. We have several pictures of them traveling around in Delhi, Qutub Minar, and Fatehpur Sikri, and Mathura. But this picture really encapsulates, they must have got all new clothes done, looking quite trendy for those days, you know, with Taj in the background. And Purushottam Bhatia really, and his family really did take very good care of the girls and the wife, while Maniklal was busy doing his official duty, doing demonstrations, etc. So this is another letter from John and Penny Hubley, and this is 1979, 4th June. And I Googled who John and Penny Hubley were. I think, understanding from Google details, it seems like they were doctors working with World Health Organizations, and they came to India often on work, and they may have been interested in textiles and crafts, etc. And that's how they must have just been directed to Maniklal, and they developed this deep friendship with them. And they came often. It was not as if they just came once. They came year after year. So this letter says that, "Dear Maniklal, we are delighted to hear from you and to know that you have been given the National Award for Master Craftsmanship in 1979. You and your workers totally deserve this honor for your fine work. We are enclosing a short article that we wrote for Scotsman. Scotsman on your work. The mango pattern came to Britain from India and was taken up by the shawl weavers of Paisley in the early 19th century, and that became to be known as Paisley pattern. This is a fine collection. There is a fine collection of Paisley shawls at the museum, and we have let them use the photographs of your workshop to accompany the museum. And that shows the block making and printing in India. When we go to India again, we will try and visit you. With best regards, John and Penny Hubley." So, and then of course there is another connection with the Victoria and Albert Museum in London. And so Veronica Murphy writes, all of these things are connected. John and Penny Hubley, Maniklal, Geeraben, Victoria and Albert Museum. And so it says that, "Dear Mr. Gajjar, I recently hear from John Hubley, who sent me some photographs taken at your workshop. He and his wife are visiting the museum shortly, especially to see the blocks that we obtained from you in 1975. So imagine Maniklal Gajjar was a well-known person, at least in the museum circuit. In 75, much before he got his national award, V&A had already acquired the work that Maniklal made, the blocks that he made, and that's a huge honor for a craftsman, for his work to be on display in a museum of that stature. We have the block that is carved, I mean not the block, but the paper impression of that block is here for you to see. And the blocks and the book prints, the block prints from you are a valued acquisitions for our Indian Textile Study Room, where they are often examined by students of block printing technique. People are very surprised that even today such fine designs can still be obtained. Our keeper, Mr. John Irwin, who needs again no introduction, a very well-known textile scholar, author of several books, who came to India and studied Geeraben's collection and wrote several books which are published by Calico Museum. So Mr. John Irwin asked me to send you his warm greetings to you, and how pleased he is to see that the blocks are a part of the V&A Museum, which were actually ordered by him. So what I'm trying to get to you with these letters is that he made such an impression on people of this kind. And a man from a small town of Pethapur, barely with any formal education, there must have been some charisma, something about that man that influenced these people, and who were so greatly impressed by not only his work, but even the way he conducted himself. And this kind of encapsulates that very beautifully. This letter is from John and Patricia Stapleton. It's a rather long letter, but I just like to read this, that John and I talk of you often. We think of the great pleasure of the time we spent with you at your home. We learned so much about not just block carving, but about kindness, craftsmanship, and generosity. And I think nobody could have put it better than this. Now, this is a very interesting letter. In fact, it's rather long. I'm not going to go into the detail of it. But this is Walter Staub. And Walter Staub was actually the managing director of Sandoz India Limited. I mean, a huge company. And all of these companies were settling themselves in around Bombay. And so Walter Staub writes to Mr. Gajjar, "You have recently been awarded with the title of Master Craftsmanship, this title being reserved for the very best craftsmen in the country. I would like to congratulate you on this rare honor. For a foreigner like myself," and also, I mean, today, I don't know how it is, but in the 60s, 70s, 80s, the people who came from other countries, they were truly interested in what was going on in our country, probably because they realized rather late that they had lost all what they had in their country, and India still had these practices alive, craftsmanship, handmade stuff, and therefore it kind of interested them to come and look at our work. This is my guess. And I don't know, Paula may be able to tell us more about this. But you have recently been awarded the title of Master Craftsmanship, and the title being reserved for the very best craftsmen in the country. I would like to congratulate you on this honor. For a foreigner like myself, study of Indian crafts provides a great opportunity to learn more about India, and I have therefore made it a habit to meet people like yourself whenever my rather limited spare time permits. I feel that I should make this point clear because my interest is not in any way commercially motivated, but strictly personal. And then he goes on to say, which is very interesting, I'm now writing to you because I'm planning a trip by car to Rajasthan, and which will originally take me from Ahmedabad to Mehsana onwards to Mount Abu. Now, imagine somebody planning a road trip in the 80s, no Google map, nothing, and those large folding maps. So he's, poor chap, this German, trying to figure out how he's going to drive in his Ambassador or Fiat, whatever he had. And I thought it would be a good opportunity to pay you a short visit and see for myself what is understood as wood block carving, which is your specialization according to the limited information I have. Unfortunately, the name of Pethapur village does not appear on any of the road maps. May I therefore ask you how exactly to proceed from Ahmedabad? Please write to me briefly what are the other villages, towns, etc. that I will pass, as well as the approximate distances. Although I shall be coming on Saturday, 22nd December 1979, I have to finalize my detailed plans, and therefore I'd be grateful for an early reply. And he's writing in October for a trip that he's planning in December. And it's interesting that he says that this is not a commercial trip, it's a strictly personal trip. But Maniklal definitely must have made a very good impression for Walter Staub to remember him, because Sandoz India produced a calendar in 1986, which was printed on fabric with 12 zodiac signs, where Maniklal carved 47 blocks of different zodiac signs. We have some of these block impressions with us in our archive. And Vachraj, which is a very well-known dyeing and printing workshop in Bombay, printed these calendars, which means Maniklal stayed in touch with him. It was not just that he came, visited, and left. He stayed in touch with Walter Staub for nearly 5-6 hours for him to have remembered that, well, I can have the blocks carved by Maniklal. I just thought that it would be a good idea for me to considering he was a man from Gujarat, a couple of very simple letters in Gujarati, simple Gujarati. I think you may be able to get the gist of it. And one letter is from Calico Museum of Textiles. Shri Manik Bhai, Vishesh Vinanti Sathe Janavanu. Yeah? Okay. Matthews Johns, and so the gist of the letter is that Calico Museum is seeking permission from Maniklal to make a film on him. And here I must say that Maniklal has been quite an exceptional artisan. About 10 films have been made by various people, various film directors, agencies, NGOs, on his life, on his craft, on his technique of block making. And I wish I could have shown you some of the films. I don't think today is the right time or the space for it, but he has a kind of a presence in front of a camera. He doesn't sort of squirm and squeal. I mean, he really, in that sense, he is quite sort of, he presents himself very beautiful, like truly, in that sense, a star. He had a great sense of his worth and his self, and he also enjoyed his work, and you could see that when he talks about his work to the filmmaker when he's talking about it. So then it says that Matthews Johns is making this film in collaboration with Calico Museum, and they are going to, as a token of appreciation. I mean, they are certain that he will give them the permission to make the film, in spite of the fact that it's going to be a lot of disturbance in his work, etc. But Matthews Jones may buy some blocks for him, and Calico Museum will give him a video cassette once the film is ready. So there is no talk of making a contract or royalty or copyright, none of that. They are just talking about that, you give us the permission, we are going to talk about your art, and, it's going to be for the museums to see. So this is also something that in today's time, one would have to look at as to how do we view this. And there is another letter that he has written to what do you call him, Vidhan Sabha MLA. And so Maniklal had no problem writing to such people. He could just write a letter inviting some political bigwig to come and see him, and he treated everybody the same, whether it was a student or whether he was a senior bureaucrat or some political person or a foreigner, scholar. Everybody was treated with hot cups of tea by his wife. Sometimes pakoras, jalebis also came by. And his hospitality was impeccable. He loved meeting people. He stayed in touch. And he gained a lot. And those who came to him also sort of remembered him with a lot of admiration, affection, etc., as you saw in the letters that I just read. So this Babubhai Vasanwala says that he will certainly drop by at his office, but he will come after the municipal elections are over. Halba Municipal Corporation ની ચૂંટણી ચાલે છે, એટલે 25મી જાન્યુઆરી પછી ગમે ત્યારે તમારી વર્કશોપની મુલાકાત લઈશ, is what he says. Now, this is something that is interesting, and I especially added this letter because since from 2000 onwards, another kind of craft tourism started to happen in India. And so this is one travel company called Tulsi from UK, and Pi Chambers. I assume she was a textile designer because there is a label called Pi Chambers Textiles. She brought groups of crafts aficionados or those who were interested in crafts or just tourists to come to Maniklal. And so Maniklal's block making also changed. He started to make blocks as mementos that people could carry with them as gifts, small. And we have in our archives, so Chitra and I often wondered that why did he make a whale? Who would have given him a job to make some kind of an animal that doesn't look like an Indian at all, or some kind of a flower? And now I kind of put two and two together and say that, okay, these foreigners, they probably came and they gave him their own drawings, their own designs, photographs, which were not at all culturally a part of Indian design sensibility, but he made blocks as mementos for these designs to go back. And so Pi Chambers, in this letter, says that I'm coming to India, as I've been coming to you, and I'm going to bring these group of people. But because I'm coming, I just thought that, would you like me to bring something for you? So please let me know if you want me to bring anything to India for you. And so Maniklal is very sharp, and he immediately jumps at this offer. And by the way, this letter has gone to Pi by way of an email, also to show you Maniklal is very adept to newer ways of communication or anything new. But this is just a copy. And a long letter, but it says that since you wrote me to bring something for me while you're coming to India, I would like to have a cordless phone. Since this will help me both and my wife, who's physically handicapped. Unfortunately, his wife had knee operations, and both the knee operations failed miserably, and therefore she could not walk at all. And so she was like quite handicapped. So since both me and my wife physically handicapped, this may enable her to receive phone and talk to anybody, anytime, at any place. Thank you, with regards. So Maniklal requests for a cordless phone. I'm not sure whether it arrived or not, but well, yes. And this is another very interesting letter from Pi, and this is earlier than 2003, so in 2001. And I especially brought this letter because 26th of January 2001 is a very it's a devastating day for us, because we had this horrible earthquake in Kutch, and very good, dear Maniklal Gajjar, very good wishes to you on Republic Day, made memorable for us by visit to you, has also had an earthquake which lasted 1 minute this morning. We love visiting. Then she goes on to say that please make some blocks of the tiger. Now, and I think 5 would be good. Now, who would make 5 different, 5 blocks of the same tiger? But obviously, it's to give as gifts. We love visiting you. It's wonderful. Nothing ever changes. And I find this, it really encapsulates in this rapidly changing world where everything changes, when we can barely get the hang of how things are happening. It must have been so reassuring to go to a place where everything seems frozen in time, and she says that nothing ever changes. So do we find, I ask myself that, do I like to go to a place where it's like frozen in time, which happened, does it kind of evoke a sense of nostalgia? Does it reassure me? What does it do? And why is it that people like to go to places where they just remain as they are? So this is it. Now, we go back to where we started, and this is a rather long letter. I will just sum it up. Parshottam Bhatia's business is going through a low, and so he writes to Maniklal saying that, please put me in touch with an astrologer and find out through my horoscope whether am I going through a very bad period, grahadasha buri chal rahi hai kya? So agar mere naam pe agar business na karu, to shall I just change the name to my son's name, or the business to my daughter's name, or to my wife's name, etc. He just goes on to say that all the old clients are not, पैसे की काफ़ी परेशानी है, और सब पुराने व्यापारी टूटते जा रहे हैं. स्क्रीन का काम दोटापुर में शुरू किया था, वह भी अभी नहीं चल रहा है. And that goes on like this, and it's Purushottam Bhatia, and he says as a postscript, मेरी पत्नी की तबीयत आजकल ठीक नहीं रहती है, उनके बारे में भी पूछना. So this business crisis also affecting on home front, wife not keeping well, obviously due to stress and tension. What happens to that? And so Maniklal again writes a very reassuring letter, rather long, I'm not going to read that, but it just says that yes, when Graha Dasha, which is when your stars are not aligned very well, everything that you try to do right just turns out to be not the way you expect it to be. And, but this astrologer is really very good. He's going to give you a solution for which he's not going to charge you very much, but things are going to get fine, and your पैसों की तकलीफ भी दूर हो जाएगी और कामकाज भी बहुत बढ़िया चलेगा, is what he says. And it's so nice for the friend who is actually just a block maker to tell him that, look, don't worry, this too shall pass, and things will get fine in no time. And this is the last letter that we have in our file from Amber Silk Prints. And it's deeply moving, and I must share that my sister helped Suchitra and me in a lot of translation, and she was so deeply moved in reading this entire file of correspondence between Amber Prints and Maniklal Gajjar that she was actually crying. She was sobbing reading this letter. And this last letter, which is in our archive, says कि आपने जो 26/5/83 के दिन लिखा था, आशा है कि वो मिल गया होगा. आप जो हमें 60 डिज़ाइन का पार्सल 28/4/83 को भेजा, वो हमने अभी छुड़ाया नहीं है क्योंकि हमने ब्लॉक का काम बंद कर दिया है. आपको हमारा निवेदन है कि आप कृपा करके यह पार्सल 60 डिज़ाइन का वापस मंगवा ले और यह छापे दूसरी कोई पार्टी को दे दें. पार्सल के ऊपर आने जाने का जो खर्चा है वो हम देने के लिए तैयार है. हम खुद आपको यह छापे वापस करने में खुद शर्म आ रही है, लेकिन हम बहुत मजबूर हैं क्योंकि हमने ब्लॉक का काम बंद कर दिया है. बाकी के हमारे ऑर्डर के ब्लॉक के छापे का काम अभी कैंसिल रखें, शेष बाकी सब ठीक है. And Maniklal has written a couple of letters after that, literally begging to him that at least keep one table alive, keep one table going of blocks, work with that so that our relationship continues. But when there is no block printing, there is no block making. So that is how, I don't know, I haven't been able to make connections with the family of Amber Prints in Delhi. I've been trying very hard through my contacts, but not yet succeeded. It would be interesting to see their part of the story as well. But I would rather end my bit of presentation on a happy note. So this was written in 1983. Today we are in 2024. But block printing is thriving. You could see at Craft Bazaar, lots of block printers are coming. All of you are supporting. And I think until the time that all of you will buy block prints, until the time when we have platforms like Sanat Kadar to help them sell this, I hope we will continue on that note. Thank you very much.
I'll just pick up from where Mala left off to give you some glimpses of Maniklal's extraordinary talent. So this was his signature, and it's sort of enlarged from the earlier letter. But even this, his transformation happens in his personality and in his self-presentation. And if you remember, we called this presentation a kaleidoscopic life. And the idea that we had was it's very hard to sum up his life, but like a kaleidoscope, we'll try to show you how the different elements combine to give different snapshots of his life and his work. And in the process, kind of trace how his relationship with himself, his projections to the world, the way his biography changes. So Maniklal has written several versions of his biodata, and from that you get a glimpse of how he talks about himself. So this one is from the English one, and he says, I've learnt my hereditary block making training from expert craftsmen for 2 years at Betapur from 1944 to 46. My father, for an experienced and well-trained craftsman, was expert in wood block making. So you can see how he's struggling to express himself in English. This is how he talks to Walter Staub and John and Penny Hubley and so on. And his father is an expert in furniture making and building construction. He took extreme and keen interest in giving me block making training. It was because of him I'm today a well-trained master craftsman. So what we are also trying to do, Mala and I, is to give you excerpts from the archive in which his voice comes through in his language. So this is an image of the larger Gajjar caste. In Gujarat, Gajjar refers to the carpenter caste. And this is the larger Gajjar clan. And it's important to know that the Gajjars of Western India, many of them who were based in Pethapur and in Ahmedabad, actually carved blocks for the Saudagiri trade. You'll see some examples of it in the display. These were textiles which were made, Sauda, as you know, means trade. These were trade textiles which were exported to Thailand. So if you see the image on the left, you can see Thai letters carved in the print itself. So these were fabrics which were of great demand in Thailand and Cambodia. And the traders who were based in Surat ordered these materials from Ahmedabad and Pethapur and exported them to Thailand. So this family, Maniklal's father and grandfather, carved blocks for the Saudagiri trade. So we think of the word craftsman, but it's important to remember that this is a craftsman's family who is kind of involved in Indian Ocean trade of textiles. So they know, they have a larger perception of the world beyond their village. These are just examples of the Maskati family, which was the principal family, one of 4 families which was involved in this trade, an example of the kind of advertisements in Thai magazines as well as the labels on their textiles. So you can see that before the national award, his letterhead, Maniklal's letterhead called him Mistri Maniklal Trikamlal Bibawala. Biba is block, the one who makes blocks. And his signature was also MT Mistri. Earlier. And then after the national award, his letterhead changes, his visiting card changes, and his signature also changes to MT Gajjar. And in his letterhead, he starts announcing himself as national awardee. And after he gets the Ravi Shankar Rawal State Award from Gujarat, he adds that he also has got the greatest award of state in fine art. So he projects himself in his letterhead, his visiting cards, and the idea that he's become a national awardee is kind of melded into the way he presents himself. Further, there are also many drafts we have of his biodata. So you can see an evolving sense of how he projects himself. Here he says he makes textile art, figure art, abstract art, natural art for mud printing, ajrak for Kutch, traditional art, modern art, rural art, etc. So he knows what it is he's making, and I'll show you some examples of this. So he makes these traditional Indian prints which we associate with block printed fabrics, and you can see what a craftsmanship is of a very high quality in the kinds of lines that he's able to carve from this hard teak material. This is the Saudagiri prints that when the trade stops in 1940s, mainly due to the Second World War, he starts adapting Saudagiri prints, enlarges them for Indian markets. Then there's a whole range of mimicking of different kinds of fabrics, which we think of as democratizing luxury textiles, because not everybody can afford fine bandhani, patola, and ikat, and he reproduces them in blocks. So you can see also the fine bleed of bandhani fabrics, which are reproduced in wood. Other fine textiles like the Kashmir shawl, the baluchari, and the jamdani, these are also all reproduced in blocks, so that very expensive textiles can be purchased by people with more modest means. Here is a range of chinoiserie prints that he does. You can see more in the display, which are adapted from these Chinese garas. So garas were saris which were worn by Parsi traders who were trading opium in China. And they came back with saris for their wives. Obviously, Chinese silk embroidery is very, very expensive. And so you find block reproductions of these gara saris. These are not simple blocks. Some of them are 7-color blocks. That means 7 different blocks for each color have to be made. So in and of themselves, they are very complicated and expensive blocks also. Here's something little playful. So you have a lot of motifs from the nursery rhymes, Mother Goose rhymes. So you can see Mary had a little lamb, and Tom Tom, the piper's son. Then Mary Mary, quite contrary, how does your garden grow? So if you know these nursery rhymes, you know you can decode this print that he has made. Then he does a lot of these figurative blocks which illustrate scenes from Indian villages. You can see spinning, weaving, agriculture, getting water from the well, transplanting, plowing. So remember, the Gajjar caste also used to build boats, make looms, work in different forms of wood, making agricultural implements and so on. Then a whole very interesting series with the Howrah Bridge and Meenakshi Temple and Banaras Ghats and perhaps Bhakra Nangal Dam. So, kind of resurgence in India, its tradition and culture. Then we have a whole series of blocks that he's made for Bharat Dyeing and Printing Works in Bombay. I'll show you more of those. But again, very complicated blocks. These are about A4 size, A4 paper, so 9 by 12 inches or a little bit smaller than that. Also multicolored blocks of Holi and dancing. This is the Hanging Gardens. If those of you who have been in Bombay will know the Kamla Nehru Park at Hanging Gardens, which has this old lady's shoe. Another 7-color block made for Bharat Dyeing and Printing Works. On the right, we think this is a block that he made for some design person who was going through Ahmedabad, perhaps had come to NID, we don't know for sure. Also to let you know that we don't have any dates on his paper prints, so it's hard to say chronologically when these were made, and the receipt books also don't give us very many details. So a lot of these we have to decode by the styles and fashions, and we are struggling with that part of the archive. Here's one called Washington No Drishya. So you can see Capitol Hill, the drawing, the architecture from that area. This is in the collection of the Baroda Museum. So there is a recurrent theme of museums collecting his blocks. So whether it's the Baroda Museum, the Victoria and Albert Museum, Calico Museum, the Peabody Museum in Harvard, all of these have, and he puts all of this in his biodata also. He's also the block carver for many community-based fabrics. So Ajrak, Matani Pachedi, these are fabrics which were at one point restricted to different communities, and he is also in touch with not only the commercial market, but another market which is of the different specific communities which wear certain specific blocks. So this is a letter from the printers in Bagh. So this is Ismail Sulaimanji Khatri, who writes Adab to Shri Maniklal from Abdul Qadir of Bagh. And just to say that not all his relationships are without stress and friction. So Sulaiman Khatri writes, what great problem is preventing you from making our blocks? I could send you all the payment in advance. What is the matter? Why are you not making them? Are you not interested in making blocks for us? We would be very grateful if you make some beautiful new blocks. So we have many letters in which there is this kind of angry note, a little pleading note. All is not always friendly and cordial. You can also see the kinds of telegrams he sent to his clients who were not paying up. So this one on the top says, please send immediately my 315 design paper prints for my daily necessity work. So people would order, ask him for prints, not return his designs. So there are this particular correspondence, there are about 25 letters, please give my work back quickly. The one below says, please remit draft of my wooden block bills before Diwali festival. So there's another exchange here, the festival is coming up, I have to pay my people, send money, send money, send money. Then, we are used to all these so-called Indian traditional prints. It's very wonderful to see the kind of range of things that he's doing. So these are a set of abstract prints. Remember, he puts it in his biodata that we make abstract prints also. So he does some really beautiful abstract prints. Then there is one set of block prints for which we are able to trace Maniklal's creative process. This is another set which he has done for Bharat Dyeing and Printing Works. These are scenes from tourist places and important buildings in Bombay. So you can see Gateway of India, you can see Crawford Market, the station, hanging gardens, and so on. And we were trying to figure out how he has developed these designs, also very complicated 7-color blocks. Then this is the all-over print, that was the border we saw. And we believe that this was made for a sari, not sure fully what exactly it was. But this is how the body is arranged. Just a little detail to give you an idea of the intricacies involved. This is about 7 inches by 9 inches. And you can see the development drawings for these blocks on butter paper. So you can see how this was done. And we think that the sources for these were early 20th century postcards of Bombay. So you can see views of Crawford Market. And some of that color, the sky, the pinkish brown kind of buildings are reproduced in his blocks in some fashion. So we think these are the sources for his designs. Another are early 20th century pictures. This is hanging gardens on the right and the block with hanging gardens. So this is one occasion where we've been able to find his creative process. Then, as Mala pointed out, Pethapur is 40 kilometers from Ahmedabad, and Maniklal is in touch with the design community, whether it was Charles Eames or Helena Perrin-Tupa, or the students who came to understand how blocks were made, and who later went on to have their own design practices. So Maniklal carved the blocks of these students who later became textile designers. The one on the left is Ravi Kaur's, and the one on the right is Mala's herself. So you can see that he was comfortable and curious to know a kind of design idiom, a visual idiom, very different from the Matani Pachedi, the Ajrak, and the abstract prints. So he was introduced to modernist work. This is from the late 1970s, when Gurjari started making prints to be printed by the Ajrak printers. We got these images from Dr. Ismail Khatri. So what we think of today as traditional block prints from Gujarat were actually modern designs made by an NID graduate. The blocks were carved by Maniklal and printed in Kutch. So these we think of as traditional now, but they were actually modern at some point. So Gira Sarabhai then tells Maniklal to tell his story, the story of how blocks are actually manufactured. And for the first time, a block maker, a craftsperson, himself tells his own story. It's not an art historian or a curator who's writing the text for this gallery. And Maniklal's tools and the script which was illustrated, so I'll give you, we have some drafts of this script. So he says, I wrote and given the book Block Making Art to Sarabhai Foundation for publishing as suggested by Giraben Sarabhai with full details and photos. It will be useful for learning this craft, art and craft for students and others, and therefore the craft will remain alive. This is the kind of drafts he writes. He writes the script, he draws all the tools, he does stages of the carving, and all of this is the script of this gallery, which is there at the Calico Museum of Textiles in Ahmedabad, if any of you have seen it or will have the chance to see it. Remember that it's the first time and perhaps the only time when a craftsman has written an account of his own craft. He's also written about in the media. We have not come across another craftsman who has been written about in magazines, both in English and in Gujarati. And this result, and we could locate 6 of the films, 6 of the 12 or so films that have been made on him, on Doordarshan and by other private filmmakers. And it results in a lot of fan mail, you know. So we have many letters written by total people from the lay public who see these films and just write, and you can see the envelope, it just says Shri Maniklal T. Mistri Bibawala, Pethapur, Gandhinagar, and the letter reaches. You know, so he's that well known. And most of it is picked out from these articles in the newspaper. We have another very interesting set of artifacts, which are the visitors' books, and they start from 1976 up until the time he dies. And you can see the kind of rapport he has with his visitors, and some of them take the effort to actually sketch his workshop and his workers. This is one of Gabaji Thakur in the center, very, very gifted block maker. Another one of the studio. Then I'll just read you some excerpts just to say what these people found in his interactions, in their interactions with him. This is from 1978, before the National Award. And Barry Underwood writes, to Shri Maniklal, I bow my head. I thought that such a master did not exist in India today. I hope that Shri Maniklal's students will imbibe from him that some degree of craft and devotion, that future generations may know that man is indeed finer than any machine in the world. So you find from a lot of the foreign visitors this anxiety about handcrafts vanishing, and that here is a person who is a custodian of hand craftsmanship. These are some of the pictures that they go back home and send him, pictures that were taken in his studio. Here's one from Margaret Watson from Santa Barbara. And she says, you're generous to share your afternoon with us, taking us on a journey from Pethapur to Siam. Siam is Thailand, and back. So he has obviously told them about Saudagiri textiles. And she says, thank you for keeping this gentle art alive. I love the sun coming into your workshop, seeing faces from neighboring rooftop, and hearing the tap of the wood tools. So you remember that rooftop picture that Mala showed you. So you can imagine what this woman must have seen on that top floor of the building where his workshop was. So you have many evocative letters in these collections. This is a Thai woman, Sitichai Smanchat, who comes, and she says, Dear Guru Maniklal T. Gajjar, remember the Saudagiri textiles which are going to Thailand. So she says, from far Siam, Thailand to Pethapur, seeing Saudagiri block print that were exported to Siam. This is Indo-Siam heritage of designs. I'm so pleasure your kindly welcome and information. And if you see the little sketch she's made, the way she's kind of folding her hands and sitting on the floor, this is how the Thai actually, the gesture they make to their king. So that's actually how she's presenting herself to him. Towards the end, I'd just like to say a little bit about the craftsman's body. You know, we have this picture of, we think about the beauty that he's producing, his assistants are producing. This is a picture of the studio, and you can see how Maniklal and his workers are crouching over this three-legged stool. We have an example of it in the corner there. And they are making these blocks. And there are the principal complaints that block makers have of occupational problems are very bad knee pain and constipation, and of course their eyes are under a lot of pressure to do this kind of fine work. And we have this beautiful glimpse of the kind of relationships craftsmen have with each other. This is a letter from Mohammad Bhai, Siddiq Bhai, who's the Ajrak printer in Kutch. And he writes in 1999, I'm writing to say that I'm sending Jala oil with the bearer of this letter, Khatri Mohammad Hussain Haji Umar. This is very effective for arthritic pain, and you can apply it on your painful joints twice a day. Inshallah, you will find relief. So we found it very touching that not only are they placing orders with each other, they are engaged with the problems that they have, sending remedies from their part of the world so that it will alleviate his pain. These are his glasses, which are also displayed there. And in 1962, he's born in 28, so in 62 he's in his 30s. Already his eyes, the lenses are -12. We have also a prescription towards the end of his life, by which time it is -15. So he's really losing his eyesight. Here's a letter from Becca Weiss, whom they had named Bela, and they had a family relationships. Bela sends pictures. She writes, I read about your eye retina troubles and would like more information. I have a neighbor who's an eye doctor. I wonder if he could help out if he knew the exact problem with the retina. So people who come to visit him become family friends, then they try to, get help for his medical problems. So this deteriorating eyesight then really leads to his career coming to an end. There is this ophthalmologist who he and his wife come and visit Pethapur. And he writes in 2003, I'm very sorry to hear that your eyesight continues to get worse. If you have any report about your eye disease, or if you have had any photographs taken of the back of your eye and would like to send me copies, I would be very happy to look at them and comment on them for you. So this is a casual visitor who comes to appreciate craft in Gujarat. But look at the relationship that then develops. Unfortunately, I don't think it is at all likely that there is any treatment available anywhere which will restore your central sight. So it's not good news at all. Here's one from Michel Postel, who is in the Franco-Indian Pharmaceuticals, and he says, we were very pleased, this is in 2008, and impressed to meet this renowned artisan of Gujarat who spent all his life preparing artistic blocks for printing cloth in his capital of textiles. We regret to know that besides the award received from the government, this great artisan does not benefit from retirement benefits or pension from the government, central or Gujarati. He suffers from a damaged retina and cataract operation not satisfactory and requires treatment and personal assistance. May God and officials help him. So it made us think about how, when we talk about the crafts and heritage of our country, and we talk about these beautiful objects, whether they are textiles or furniture or various things that the craftspeople of our country make, we rarely think about, or we know so much about a craftsman's life and what actually the price that their body pays in order to produce this beauty. So I think we are also transformed by the research that we do, and makes us think in directions that we perhaps, skipped over in a way. But some of these letters and notices in the visitor's book sort of makes us pause. And this is amongst the very last entries. He dies in 2012 in January, and this is in November of 2011. And this is written by Mushtaq Khan, who was assistant director of the Crafts Museum in New Delhi. And he says, blessed with a passion for life, it's admirable how Maniklal ji has maintained old records so meticulously. So this almost blind person, he's not able to do any work, but he continues to receive visitors right up until a few weeks before he dies, and is still talking about his traditions, his work. And Mushtaq Bhai later wrote us an email to say even on that last visit, he was so frail, still he could not miss the enthusiasm in his voice in order to share his craft with the visitors. So I'll just end with that. This is the board which he had in front of his house. In multicolors. He talks about him being a national award winner, but just to also sort of encapsulates his life, which was actually multicolored and with the kind of depth that he had in the relationships with his clients, with visitors, and enduring relationship. He's able to build long-term relationship with people who are even just casual visitors. And a very important aspect of it is that when we become researchers, we feel moved, and there is an affect, the impact of the encounter. And unlike Mala, I haven't even met this person, but through the letters, through the films, hearing his voice, you can be drawn into this very multifaceted life, which almost seems unbelievable sometimes. So with that, I'll end the presentation, and if you have any questions, be delighted to take them. So in 61, we think that we are told that there were 200 families. Today, there are perhaps 5 or 6 families which are doing block carving. A lot of block printing took place through screens. I mean, a lot of printing was done by screens. So that was the shift which happened with Purushottam Bhatia. He actually moved from block printing to screen printing. So when the technology changed, we didn't need blocks anymore. So the patronage of the Pethapur block carving community fell. After that, of course, comes digital printing now. So that's another shift. But we also have to remember that it's the mills start coming up in Ahmedabad and Bombay. Earlier, mills used to print by blocks. So they were spinning and weaving mills, but not printing mills. Once the printing mills start coming, that demand also cuts into the demand for block printing. So for multiple reasons, this happens. But the Gajjars are a very entrepreneurial community. So some brothers, nephews, the extended clan, they move to screen printing and so on. So it's not as if they don't make quick shifts. So Maniklal's sons-in-law are in the processing business. Some of them become textile traders. So we met other people who start doing other things. Or if there are 4 brothers, 3 will do something else and 1 may remain in carving. So this kind of changes did take place in the community. And they also became, since they work with wood, they started making bobbins and other parts for the textile mills. So they shifted the work.
The Bombay stuff that you showed on the slide.
Yes.
So what was it printed for? Do we know that?
There is a little pamphlet which says this was a print for a sari ordered by Bharat Dyeing and Printing Works. We don't know what it was. Bharat Dyeing Printing Works shut down, and the son of the main person, Chandu Bhai, he didn't want to talk to us. There's some kind of politics. But we met the printer who worked with Chandu Bhai, who said that perhaps this was ordered by Laura Hamilton, who ran the Malabar boutique in Taj. So we think perhaps it was some fabric developed for a non-Indian market. So we don't know.
So you're not able to find any of these products?
We are not able to trace. Some we are. So the things he did for Bharat Dyeing and Printing Work, which Bharat Bhai Lakhani remembers, we are able to make, we could trace some of the chinoiserie, we could trace many of the other things because Bharat Bhai has those prints. But some of these we are not able, like we don't know what was done with the Hanging Gardens old lady's shoe. We don't know. Washington No Drishya is sitting in Baroda Museum. It's actually made with brass strips, so it's not even that kind of carved block. But we don't know what happened. Yeah.
Ma'am, what were the particular types of fabrics that were used for block printing at that time?
All kinds of fabrics, but mainly cotton. Ahmedabad was known for cotton.
Yes, ma'am.
And so therefore cottons and kinds of cotton. And block printing was mainly for saris and therefore fine cottons. And the fine cottons earlier handspun, and when the mills came, even before the mills came, fabrics came from Manchester. I'm talking of pre-independence, and we printed on those. And then when the mills started to make finer yarn, fine spinning, those fabrics were woven, which were printed by her. Because even when the printing machines came to the mills, printing sari was very difficult. When I took up a job, was the first job, for the first mill, the Mafatlal mills brought a machine that could actually print a sari with the border and the palla. Otherwise it was extremely cumbersome printing a sari. And as you know, all our fabrics require saris, etc. It would need a border. It would need a palla, the traditional ones. I'm not talking of the ones that the Rajasthan royalty wear, which were the sheen that came from France. They were not the ones. I'm talking of the traditional ones. The Siddha palla had to have a long palla, all of those things. So everything, the Bengalis had another kind of, so all of those things was a language that we had to adhere to. And this was called, sorry.
Traditionally, there were some colors also that were like, they were particular colors that yehi use honge and other than.
And Manikla lived at the time when he was working for people like say Ajrak or Matani Pacheri, colors symbolized. It had a language of its own. But when they were making for the new urban emerging markets, in fact they were looking for newer and newer colors. There was always a shift and change. Like I remember my mother would always say, oh, I have worn this color, or this color suits me, so I will have more of this, or I'm done with this color, I want to have something else. So there was this newness that the Indian consumer was beginning to enjoy, especially in the urban and semi-urban areas. So the colors did play, in fact colors sometimes played a bigger role in making a design successful than just before.
We are running on a very tight schedule, so we need to wrap this up. So on behalf of Sanat Kada, we'd like to thank our guests, Blockmaker Mala Sinha and Dr. Suchitra Balasubramaniam. It was a very interesting and insightful discussion. Thank you to the audience for staying with us on a very gloomy and rainy Monday. The session that was supposed to happen at the Adibari stage has now been moved here, and it's going to start at 2 p.m. It's called Ek Khas Mulaqat Aashiki Ke Saath. So if you are interested, then please stay back and watch it with us.